We go. Welcome into the Pillow Talk stream, previously called Pillow Talk. It's Pugs Parker with E. I try to sit here. I give it 3 minutes for everybody to get on board. It's nothing wrong with being a minute or two late. We're all a little bit late. I like to give it 3 minutes. James made it on time. E, not so much. E, a little bit late today by about 30 seconds. I wait for the clock to go to 3, and if all 3 of us aren't here, then I just hit go. Hi, gentlemen. That's E. That's James. What's new?
Yeah, I apologize. I got some crap news about a friend of my kids that had passed away, so it was just kind of
gosh damn, man. I'm sorry to hear that. A friend of Dom's.
Actually,
this is a child.
The dad. Well, no, the mom.
Wait, your son has MILF friends?
Hold on a second, dude.
Yeah, you know what? You need to, if you want to go take a little time. If you got stuff to handle. I mean, the kind of life and death is more important than.
No. Well, it just it sucks because life is just that fragile. So this is a kid that played on Dom's football team.
So kid I've seen.
And the first year, Max, his dad is a pretty prominent guy in town, and they went to Mexico, and she died in some kind of accident.
So it's the mom that died, not the kid. Okay, all right. I was worried that it was the kid.
The mom did, and so it's
Christ.
and so he found her, and now her body's just on the way back. He got back yesterday, and so we had Dom's football team. They had the party over there. She has one of the cool houses.
Yeah, hear that, James? Even in Highland Park, there's a pecking order. Some houses are cool houses, and some are just Highland Park mansions.
And so this kid, obviously, I know him from a football dad kind of perspective, and I've spent more time with him than other kids, and so it just sucks thinking because I know how much he loved his mom.
Well, it goes without saying. I mean, right? I mean, a kid that age, what an absolutely terrible thing.
Yeah. So anyway, I just got
that's we started out on a pretty somber note. But James, we do realistic things on this show, so let's just roll with it. That the child finding his mother, that's something. Boy, that's like James Gandolfini's kid. James Gandolfini, Tony Soprano's kid, found Tony Soprano. They were in Rome. They were in a hotel. They were going out to dinner. He was like a 15-year-old. Actually, I think he was younger than that now because he's only in his early 20s now. So he was probably like 10 or 11 years old, and they were in Rome, and he went into his dad's bathroom. They were going out to dinner, and there he was. There was James Gandolfini laying down. That is not something that. You know what? As I say that, I just realized that you have that story, don't you? I'm sorry that I said it like that, but I just realized that I believe you have that exact same story.
I mean, yeah. You never.
You found your father passed away.
Yeah. You just.
Well, from your father perspective, like you wouldn't mind if your kids are the one. Someone's got to find you when you die, right?
Yeah, I don't want it to be my kid. I absolutely mind if it's my kid. I don't want my kid to find me.
What if you're like 70 or 80? They're fine. They're well adjusted.
That's fine. That's an adult. Yeah, but we're talking about a child. Yeah.
The way, and I think weren't we on the air at the time?
When?
I think, when my dad passed away, I think we were maybe on the AM.
No, we were still. I think we were still at 105.3 because I was just moving into the house that I had bought, and you called me and we had a long conversation in the minutes following that discussion.
Oh yeah, maybe So, and so. Yeah, the way that it happened, I'm glad that I'm ultimately the one that found him because I think in the pecking order of if I went down, who would I want to find me, and who would I then want to tell the rest of the remaining group who was not here anymore. And so those were hard phone calls to make. Like I remember, I was like, okay, so who am I going to call first? My real mom, my stepmom, or my sisters. Like that was just like the first kind of thing you deal with, and then from there it just starts
So
spinning.
let me answer that, because you put that out. Who do you call first, James? Who do you call first? Mom, stepmom, or sisters?
For me, it's a no-brainer because it would be. I have one sister.
Yeah, I would think it would be the sibling. I would think the sibling would be the first call.
And so on planet Earth, there's one person that I share more DNA with than anyone else, and it's my sister, even more so than my kids. And we're close. We're almost the same age. We're like 18 months apart. We live 6 miles apart, and we have a healthy relationship. And I don't know, she's just a female version of me. I mean, not like a dickhead. I just mean like.
No, I know. I don't. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. I don't think you share more DNA with your sister than you do your own child. I don't think that's true. I think that sounds true, but I don't know, or might be true. It might be. I might be wrong. I just don't think it sounds right. It doesn't sound right to me.
Well, technically, it should be the same.
Yeah, you do.
It should be about the same.
50-50, right? It should be, because you're both, although you're not accounting for your own DNA. That is, let's not go down this rabbit hole. I just thought that was an interesting statement that you made. I was like, okay. Yeah, go ahead, E. So who did you call first?
Well, interestingly enough,
me. I think you called me first.
No, come on, man.
I'm not kidding.
Well, no, on the way. Well, I had somewhat determined that I thought he was dead when I was driving over there. Like things didn't add up. And so I had started, I think, talking to Pugs or friends that were close to me. I remember I was having conversations, I think, with Pugs.
I knew there was something going
my
on
mom
before you made the discovery. So yeah, you were talking to me.
Right. And so my dad had this, steadfast routine that every Friday he would go to lunch with his buddies.
Italian restaurant in Plano, right?
At a restaurant. Well, not that one, but one out by Lone Star Park, and then he would go to Lone Star Park and they'd bet on the horses. Like that was just his, ritual. And he did that all the time, to where he had his own table over there. When the Yankees would come in town, they would sit there. He'd be in the back with Joe Torre. Like it, I mean, it was basically his Lone Star Park during the summer.
Tony Soprano, the retirement years. This is basically how he rolls, hanging out at the local track.
I mean, literally, it was stupid. Yeah, it was stupid. Like I would go there and he'd be in the back room with
James. I went to Lone Star once to hang out with Emil's dad, Big Johnny Cirillo, sitting there at the table, and it was like it was crazy. It was like you walk in and he's sitting there at this table holding court. He was a big man, a big, loud, loving, big-hearted guy, Italian. Right? And he's sitting there. The minute anybody walks in, he's like, "Is that Pugs? Get over here!" Just like such a nice, wonderful man. And he had that place wired up. I remember walking into Lone Star Park, going up there into the super suites or whatever they call it, where the fancy people are. And I'm like, do you own this place? You got this place wired. Stick with me, kid.
It was stupid. Well, I mean, if you think about, but I'm saying just turn it in reverse, right? So let's go. Okay. Well, I don't know how many years ago that was, but when I was in second grade, okay, he was running the racetrack kitchen in Toronto after the 2 bowling alleys mysteriously burned down.
Hold on, let's unpack here. He had to leave the country because there was some things going on, and he ended up at the racetrack in Toronto.
There was a job opportunity, a business opportunity in Toronto, Pugs,
that coincided with the feds asking questions about the 2 burnt down Jewish lightning fires.
Does John Cirillo control nature? Does he control fire now too?
No.
So I was a little bit, the picture got clearer as I got older as to what was going on. But when I was younger, I remember I thought to myself, Dad knows a lot about like the bowling business, but what does he know about like the racetrack? Like we used to have horses and we would go to the racetrack and we had all kinds, but like, why now is he running the racetrack kitchen? Like things never
Like
made
when you go to,
sense, like
like
kind
when
of
guys go
like
to
that,
Vegas
you
after
know?
they get hot, feds get hot on them or something, whatever city they from. They go to Vegas and they become the entertainment director of a casino.
Right.
I'm running the drinks and I'm running the
Hey,
bars.
how far away is Toronto from Buffalo?
Like an hour and a
Oh
half,
my
2
God.
hours, but it's over
Sure,
the
sure. Okay.
border, which is the main, which I think was the main
Feature.
issue. You know, they needed him over the
You know,
border.
although as we learned, not outside the reach of extradition. So
Right. Not quite in Andorra.
No, but
hard
yeah,
to
and
find
so
though.
then
Hard
what
to find.
happens?
Not easy to find.
So then he's got my mom, like him and my mom are married, right? So then he starts flying back from Buffalo to Toronto on an Eastern Airlines, and that's where he meets my now stepmom because she's a flight attendant. And so that's where I guess the hanky panky started between him and this flight attendant. And then he would fly down to Miami, Florida with all the boys in the winter because he was like the snowbird.
Hold
You
on.
know, they'd go down to Miami
Let
and
me,
then
let
they
me
come
stop you there one
back.
more time and make one little note here. Do you know what a pimp you had to have been in the 1970s to have actually converted stewardesses? Like everybody was hitting on stewardesses back in the 70s. That was the thing.
Oh, but my dad was a
He
Cirillo
got
from
one.
Buffalo, and he had a name back
He got
then.
one.
Well, but I mean, that's what my mom would always
Was he
say.
always a
God
big
love her soul.
guy?
She's
Because I
passed
don't
away.
think of him as like a handsome ladies' man. I think of him as a big.
Oh no, he was not at all. My mom, like how my mom met him, it's kind of a funny story. So my mom was like back then, she was like a lounge singer. Like she had records like that with her singing on it, and she was up at these like supper clubs. You know, they
They
had
did
a
back in the day. She was
routine,
like the
and
hot
so
chick on stage, and your dad walked in and went,
yeah, and so
"Whoa!"
she had little. So she was introduced to him. So she came from Canada. She was Canadian, but she was a singer, and she would tour with a comedian,
Sure,
Shecky Green.
sure.
So
Big
back in the
name.
day, she was with Shecky Green, and she was one of the girls that would come out and sing before he would come on. She'd do like some kind of warm up,
Back
kind
when
of whatever.
entertainment was terrible, where they just send a lady out to sing 3
So
songs and then it's some comedian. Ugh.
so my family and my grandfather and his brothers and all that had that name. My dad was
Mhm.
that family, and she was introduced to him in the back, and she said he was really square. He like didn't drink, kind of heavy set, but he was told to be
Yeah.
Johnny Cirillo, you know. So he went and he talked her up, and he was, you know, nice to her and stuff like that. She said he drank milk and ate cookies. Like,
Oh, your dad had
like
scoped her out. He was putting on his best act.
yeah. Anyway, so that was the thing, and so somehow that manufactured into them getting married. My aunts hated her because she was a showgirl, and she was like a singer, and they didn't think that that was where their Italian Johnny
Mm.
needed to be. For him to turn out to be the one that got in all the trouble and her the
Hey,
you know,
historically, in this
it's
life,
just
showgirls are gumas. They're not the ones you marry. The gumas are the ones you date on. Was it Friday is for the gumas, Saturday is for the wives, right? Yeah. So gumas are who you go out with on
yeah,
Friday night. That's the lounge
right,
singer.
right. Yeah, my aunts
Mhm.
did not like her at all, and
Look,
my
all I'm
great
saying is there is
grandmother.
a book filled with interesting stories. Maybe, maybe there's I don't know what there is, but there is something in there. James, what do you got on your agenda this evening here?
Oh, I'm still going through the GUMOD
Oh, the
rules and stuff.
rules of
Yeah.
cheating.
So
Yeah.
hang on. So your mom is a lounge singer. Did they?
She
It,
was, yeah, back in
okay.
the day.
Did she continue being a lounge singer after she was married?
No,
So
that
you
was
never
not
got to
allowed.
see her being a lounge singer.
But you've heard the
No.
records, and you've heard your
Oh
mom
yeah, I
sing.
had heard the records. Yeah, and I heard her sing, and like so she had the little. Well, back then it was like 45s and 33s, and I think they had like 72. I don't know,
78s.
some fast
Mhm.
78s, and so she had like all different versions of things that she had made a record of. And one of them was like, oh Johnny, because that was
Yeah.
my dad's name. and she had like a Oh Johnny O kind of record, and we used to play that one. Um, but yeah, it's kind of fun. You know, you go back and you see that, and then I see my dad when he brought the Pro Bowlers tour to Buffalo, and ABC and Wide World of
James,
Sports
big
came. Like I
moment
can,
in Buffalo bowling history when Johnny Cirillo brought the pro. I've heard this story a million times.
yeah, it was big, dude. Because like nobody, think of it's Buffalo. Like, what the hell did we have? We had like the Bills, and we
You had
had the
2
Pro
burned
Bowlers
down
tour.
bowling alleys.
No, this was the one that
good
was
one.
the second burning was the one where the Pro Bowlers tour
Hey,
came
look,
to.
just on
Yeah.
the Pro Bowlers thing. My first job, I worked at Mickadoon's, which was the bar and pizza restaurant attached to the Orland Bowl, which was a big bowling alley. In round about 1980, and it was a big bowling alley for the time. It was when it was built. It was built to be like, this is a showplace bowling alley. It's like one of those kind of deals. So it's probably about 84, 85, and the Pro Bowlers tour came. The Pro Bowlers tour came, and I was working. I was a busboy in the Mickadoon's restaurant, and I remember standing there just with my friend. Because when you work at a bowling alley, you watch people bowl all the time, and you think you know what good bowling is. And then the pro bowlers show up, and they're practicing for 5 hours a day, and it is nothing but strikes. Every single lane, like 40 lanes of like pro bowlers, just one after another. Just, I mean, it's ridiculous.
You don't see a score under 200. Rarely would you see something like under 200.
It's crazy how good pro bowlers are. I mean, especially when you're out there throwing the ball. All right, that's enough. We need to get into the Pro Bowlers tour. What else is interesting about?
All right. Well, I have a spooky story.
We did have Rick James, Ross.
James.
You're right.
Yeah, there you go.
Fun. He was fun.
All right.
Yep.
So
he would bring celebrities to town.
Here's the story of
Rick James,
Raul Meza. Raul Meza. Yeah, Raul Meza Jr. Here we got room for our amazing Pugs and Parker graphics. There we go. Raul Meza Jr. turned himself in today. He just walked into a police station, kind of like in 7, where he's like, "Hey, man, you looking for me?"
Head in the box?
Kinda.
Oh, did I just kill the story? I'm sorry. You referenced 7.
No,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll shut up.
This is pretty damn close to it. So he goes into the police station. I think it was in like Pflugerville or something. It's in Texas. It's just down the street from us. And hey, I think you guys are looking for me. And they're like, well, why would we be looking for you? He's like, wow, you know that dude that showed up dead in Pflugerville? Yeah, I killed him. Yeah. We were roommates for a couple years before that. But also in 2019, there was like a lady that showed up dead, kind of like about 8 miles that way. I killed her too. Yeah, I'd gotten out of prison a little bit before that. I'd been in prison because in 1982, I murdered an 8-year-old girl. So I just got out, and I can't stop killing. I'm looking for. I can't wait to kill again, actually. And okay, and so they check him. He's got a backpack with like duct tape and zip ties and shit in it. And this guy just realizes that he's a bad person, and he's not gonna stop. And he has this thirst to kill. And if he's left to his own devices, he's going to kill again. And so he just turns himself in. But what they've done is now they have his DNA and they've attached it to, oh, okay, well, this was some unknown DNA from this crime scene over here. And then there was some unknown DNA from this crime scene over here. Holy crap. Because when he went to jail, for the crime in 1982, they didn't think to take a DNA swab of him. So he wasn't in databases. But now they have his DNA. Now it's just going bing, bing, bing on the radar. And so they've got it up to 10.
So they are DNA matching him. He's claiming all of these. A lot of these guys come out. People want fame, and fame at any cost. A lot of people make these things up. So this guy came in. He claimed to be responsible for a whole bunch of murders, and then they actually found DNA links to it. So he wasn't lying.
Yes.
Am I following right? That's okay.
That's exactly what we have now. This isn't confirmed because allegedly, reportedly, or whatever. But so far, his DNA is pinged on 8 to 10 other cold cases, which I don't know. Is it 8 or is it 10? Yeah. USA Today, figure it out.
Yeah, right. Before you put it to print.
Yeah, but this is the dude. He's 62 years old. He started tattling on himself, but he first got in trouble way back in 1982. I mean, he was probably wearing bell bottoms when he did this, but he strangled an 8-year-old girl in Austin and went to jail for a long time. And he pleaded guilty, no big deal, goes away, and he just gets out. Like, what would 2016 be? 7 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Wait, it says here he was sentenced to 30 years for the murder of Kendra Page. That's the little girl that was found behind the school. How much time did he do? Did you say 8 years?
No. He got out like 7 years ago.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say,
he got out
murder a little girl.
Yeah.
How did he get out so quick after murdering an 8-year-old girl?
How did he get out at all?
Bro, here's the worst. Look, he got out in 1993 for time served plus time counted off for good behavior. There was some state initiative where they were trying to get people out of prison, so they like double counted.
For killing an 8-year-old girl, how long ago?
I'll tell you, man. Why don't you let all the tax cheats and weed heads out before you get down to the guys who are killing 8-year-old girls?
Right. So he initially only did 10 years for that when they let him off, but he violated his parole in 1994 and went back to prison. Then he was released in 2002, got in trouble again, boom, prison, finally got out in 2016, and here we are. So, yeah.
I mean, like, I think if you killed somebody that was 90, like maybe getting 10 years is
no. Look, you can't parse murder. Murder is murder. You're right. It seems a bit worse.
Well, but I'm like, you kill somebody that's 80, you get 10 years. Or you kill somebody that's 90 or 95 that doesn't have 10
it's
to
not
go.
as grave of a crime in your view. I'm not saying I agree with you, but I can see the math because, like, if you kill someone who's 99, what would you do? Shave off 1% of their life? But if you kill someone who's 1 year old, you shaved off 99% of their life.
What if you kill somebody who's 20 years old, but they have cancer?
Then if they had terminal cancer and they were going to die in 6 months, then you really only knocked off 6 months of their life. That's not really
what world are we living in? That is a terrible way to look at this.
Well, but I mean, if
I
I'm looking
logically
at
what you're saying, but it's a slightly immoral way of looking at life and death. I just think.
Well, just don't tell people you have cancer and you got nothing to worry about.
What if your friend is falling into a volcano, but before he hits the lava, you shoot him in the head? Is that even murder?
Oh, wow. Is that a good intellectual exercise? So your friend is about to fall into a volcano, certain death.
He's already fallen. He's airborne on his way down.
While he's down there, you pull out your pistol and you shoot him in the head. Mercifully, one might argue. You're going to burn to death or fall. Actually, I don't know if it's mercifully. He'd probably die on impact. So I don't know. Is that murder? If someone was on their way to die, is that murder? Ask Jack Kevorkian.
Before you answer that question, if you're falling face first into a volcano, wouldn't you prefer Pugs pull out a gun and shoot you in the head before you hit?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't think it matters.
I might even prefer being shot long before I had the idea to go hang out at the rim of the volcano. Just shoot me at the bar when I have that idea.
Well, the gods are pissed off, man. Someone's got to go.
So this guy told on himself. Which, how old was he? How old is he now?
62.
62. Okay. Well, yeah.
Does it really matter as they're putting these people like on his list? Like, I think once he gets past 3, he's like in prison for life. Like, there's not. If I'm him, and I've got 3 kills. Like, do I really care how many more you tag on? No.
It's funny you say that because, you see these ridiculous sentences for people who are terrible. And it's like, you got a double life sentence. That's 2 lifetimes in jail. There was a guy a couple of years ago. I remember this story. He was in jail in California, and James, they were doing that thing where they're trying to thin out the jails. This guy was serving a double life sentence and he was paroled after 20 years. A double life sentence. And after 20 years, they're like, yeah, we were just kidding about that.
Yeah,
how does that work?
Soft to me, doesn't it? Does it sound soft to y'all? Does that too soft?
Doesn't really sound soft.
I don't know how you get out off a double life. It
Right.
seems like you would have to expire the first one in order for them to let you out in the second one. Like, it doesn't seem like you can get out of a double life in the first life.
The other thing that I'm just remembering as you say that, it wasn't just double life. It was double life. This was like back in, I don't know, 1990 something. It was double life with no possibility of parole. And 20 years later, they paroled them. And they're like, well, we changed the rules. Yeah, we got new rules now, and we're going to.
Yeah, that's the only rule that you can change, and it will still affect somebody that's here.
Rule. Everything is a construct. Go ahead, James.
Can we do my next thing?
Yeah, please.
All right, next thing is this graphic that I saw just randomly floating around on, I think it was Facebook or something. But let's do a little sport talk.
All right.
A little bit, yeah. All right, so most division titles since the merger, and NFL comes up with some crazy stats when you start to look at like the stories behind these franchises. And this one, I thought it was mind-blowing, not at the top of the chart, but because of the bottom of the chart. I want to direct your attention down here to this little losery logo for the Jets down here, right? Mm-hmm. And right next to that is the Lions. Okay, so that's pretty damn bad. 3, 2. Mm-hmm. When did the merger happen? 1967. So we're talking, what, 55 years?
Yeah.
55 years. You've won your division twice.
That's painful.
How do you have any fans left? And if you do have any fans left, are they wearing GIMP suits right now? Do they love being tortured?
Well, exactly what I texted you. You're right. It is hard to be a Jets or a Lions fan historically, but right now it's a pretty good time to be a fan of both of those teams. Both of those teams are definitely on the upswing. Both of those teams are loaded with talent, and both of those teams are predicted to be pretty good this year. Certainly the Lions. The Lions are pretty much the consensus pick to win the division, to beat, the NFC North. So
what do I know about the Lions?
What's that?
What don't I know about the Lions? Besides the fact that Aaron Rodgers finally left the division.
What don't you know about the Detroit Lions?
Who's their quarterback?
They had a good second half of the season last
year. They're unbeatable in the whole second half. Dan Campbell is a very popular coach on the rise. Jared Goff had a career year. I mean, he had an amazing year last year. They've got probably the best wide receiver in football, who nobody knows, but they will this coming season, in Amon-Ra St. Brown. They've got a ridiculous defense. Aiden Hutchinson is going to be an absolute monster. I mean, I saw him in a couple of games. So, no, they're a good team. They're a team. The Lions are a team on the upswing, to be sure. And the Jets have been loaded with talent for years. They've just been bogged down in a Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson mud pit for 6 years. They've had all kinds of talent around these two young quarterbacks.
Well, you can't say for 6
years. They whiffed on two quarterbacks. That's the problem with the Jets. But other than that, they have a lot of talent.
That is way too reductive for a 55-year history to only have two. Aside from Joe Namath and Mark Sanchez, what have they ever had at quarterback? What am I missing? Anything decent? I think they get.
Well, first of all, you mentioned Mark Sanchez indecent. Mark Sanchez was terrible.
He got into two AFC Championship games.
No, Mark Sanchez was terrible. You remember when he lined up? Yeah,
the butt fumble.
Mark Sanchez. Anyway, they've had a number of pretty decent quarterbacks with the Jets. Boomer Esiason comes to mind. O'Brien comes to mind. Who was the Pennywinkle? Who was that kid? Remember that kid before, like 10 years ago? Blonde kid, went to Miami. He was pretty good for a while. That's your division, E. Who was that kid, the Jets quarterback? It was like Hebenwinkle or something. It was like some. Oh, Jesus! Now I gotta find out.
Yeah. When I look at this list here, I think the bottom. When I look at that bottom row there, what stands out to me is Jacksonville expansion, Cardinals
Chad
expansion.
Pennington. That's who I was trying to think of.
Wait. Cardinals not an expansion. Cardinals one of the original NFL teams, right?
Yeah, no, but they're an expansion that came from St. Louis and got replaced.
No. The Cardinals
What
are
do you
the
mean, no?
oldest team in the NFL. The Cardinals and the Bears were both the Chicago teams. They signed first. The Cardinals and the Bears. The Cardinals are the oldest team in the NFL. They played in 3 cities, but the Cardinals team has been around.
Right, but when I'm saying expansion, that may be the wrong word, meaning that
terrible.
they had to move. They had to move to a different city and then get started in that city. That's what I'm saying. So when I look at this bottom here, I go Jacksonville, Cardinals, Panthers, Texans, and even the Ravens, because the Ravens aren't the Ravens. They're
Colts.
the Colts that turned
Yeah.
into the Ravens. And so it's in that bottom row that I see basically everybody has kind of been a mover. And then right above that, what do you got? Another team that moved, Tennessee, that moved from Houston. And then it seems they're pretty solid. The one that is interesting to me, as high up as they are the Seahawks. I think that's an impressive
I think they've been
place.
quietly good since the 1980s, since the Zorn Largent years. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They've been quietly good. 10 wins every year. That'll get you there.
Like that, when I saw that up there, I was like, huh, you go Seahawks.
Let me point something
and
out, though,
then
about the bottom row before you get too far in there. The bottom row, I think that there's a bit of a red herring on the bottom row, and that is the Baltimore Ravens, because any list of most Super Bowls in the last 20 years is going to have the Ravens pretty high up there. The Ravens have been a good team for the last quarter century. So them being at the bottom there, I think that has more to do with the fact that they haven't been around through the entire time of the expansion.
right, and that's what I'm saying about that whole bottom row. It's just like it seems like you haven't been around long.
No, there's no excuse for the Cardinals. The Cardinals are an absolutely ridiculous organization. They're the oldest team in football. Let me give you an example. The Cardinals are the oldest team in football by exactly 5 seconds. That's the Bears signed second. The Chicago Bears, my team, okay, who are seconds younger than the Cardinals in the NFL. My team has the second most wins in NFL history. The Packers passed us last year. Second most wins, the most titles, and the most Hall of Famers, right? In the exact same time period of the Cardinals. Now, the Bears have not been a killer organization, and yet they still, in that time period, just because of time, because they played more seasons, have those things. Cardinals don't even have anything close to that. And the Cardinals have been around, and the Bears are not a great organization. You know what I mean? It's not like the Bears are the Cowboys or the 49ers or the Patriots for the last 80 years.
Mm-hmm.
No. So just by tripping over your own dick, the Cardinals should have had, a couple of Super Bowls or championships.
You
They're
would
a terrible
think,
organization.
right?
They're just a terrible organization. And I'm making an admission now. They're actually my second favorite team, because there's my family back when it was the Chicago Bears and the Chicago Cardinals. Chicago Cardinals were the South Side team. Chicago Bears were the North Side team. So my family, when the Cardinals moved to St. Louis after 50 years in Chicago, that was a big deal. Everybody had to switch over to Bears fans. So I've got some love for the Cardinals, but I'm absolutely disgusted by them.
All right, so some observations. I think y'all think this is cool. In the top row, there's only one team that I've noticed that hasn't won a Super Bowl. That's
The
right,
Vikings.
Yeah.
In the bottom row, there's only two teams that have.
Two teams that
you
have
the
in the
Jets and
bottom.
Ravens.
Well, the Jets and the Ravens.
Okay. Panthers have been in a couple. Falcons have been in one or two that I remember.
They've been in one that I know of.
Or not Panthers, I'm sorry. Carolina has been in a couple. Jaguars, nothing. Yeah, that's a garbage list. That's roughly on the bottom there. Jeez. Is there anything?
The Raiders, to me, at 12, seem like they were further ahead than that.
Well, they were
one
so
point.
good.
It's like
throughout
Denver
Davis and Jim Plunkett and all that, but they've been nothing except for that one little John Gruden blip in my lifetime.
Now let's show the difference in our ages, because in my lifetime, I go back a generation before that you just mentioned, and I'm sure that E will remember this. I mean, my earliest memories of football was Dave Casper and John Madden and Kenny Stabler and the Raiders when they looked unbeatable. You know what I mean? The Raiders were really good when they had Stabler and John Madden as their coach. And so they have had a couple of different eras of being really competitive. So
Well, and if you look at that and you go, okay, AFC West, look where the Broncos are. Look where the Chargers are. Look where the Chiefs are. Look where the
Wow.
Raiders are. I mean, those really are, if you think about it through our, earlier years, it was always the toss up in that AFC West as to who was going to come home with the title. If you look at the top, you can pretty much see New England and Pittsburgh pretty much trounced their divisions in terms of titles for years. And there's just a big disparity to anybody who is in that division. So I think that's interesting. And then you see the Cowboys, if you put together the East, the NFC East, and you look at that, well, that's pretty much the way that played out.
I think the one that surprises me that they're not better, that they don't have more, is the New York Giants. When you consider how long the New York Giants have been around and how storied a franchise that is, to see them in the third row, basically
behind the Aints.
Yeah, wow, behind the Redskins, which has to hurt even more.
Right.
And behind Philadelphia. Right. Well, most division titles since the merger.
I mean, the Dolphins, I don't see them there. Like it must have been, when they had that 17-0 season and they had, I guess the Don Shula era. Maybe they were that dominant then, but they didn't really go off and win a bunch of Super Bowls.
I think the Don Shula era, like 30 years though. I mean, that covers everybody from Shula through Marino, right? So
yeah, from Bob.
He had some good teams.
So I didn't see the Dolphins in '72 go undefeated and stuff. For me, when I was a kid, the Dolphins were always this team where everyone picked them to go to the AFC Championship game, if not the Super Bowl, and they just never did. It was like
they're the Cowboys of the East.
But Dan Marino came out and he was in the Super Bowl, his first or second year? And we figured we'd see him there like 1,000 other times, but he never made it back. And they never sucked. They just always had a hype and never did anything with it.
Well, here's the thing. Don Shula was a genius with his offenses. And Don Shula never had a good defense. You can't name me one superstar defensive player from the Miami Dolphins, not named Jason Taylor. You know what I mean? Like that's like the only guy that I can think of who, is like a Hall of Fame level defensive player that we know was a Dolphin. Who else was a Dolphin, right? Am I missing somebody? There's no great edge rusher in Dolphin history. There's no great middle linebacker in Dolphin history. There's no great defensive.
And what is that? Is that the teal? It just doesn't let you come off the edge real strong? Or?
I just think that
I mean, they've had a couple.
Name one. You can't. I can name a standout defensive player for every other team that I'm looking at. I'm struggling with the Dolphins, a defensive player.
Didn't the Ndamukong Suh played for him for a period of time?
Again,
a Dolphin.
Well, you mean started out
who's quintessentially who's known for being a Dolphin defensive great. Like
Zach
Thomas and Jason Taylor. That's it.
Thomas.
Those are the only two.
And Jason Taylor.
Find me a Mean Joe Green. Find me a Randy White. Find me a Richard Dent. Find me a Bruce Smith. You can't.
Nick Bonacani. That
was when they went 17-0. So they might have had a couple defensive guys back then, but
Well, and his kid got paralyzed, and so maybe that name was just a little bit more.
Hey, James, can I take the wheel here, or you got somewhere you want to go with this?
No, go ahead.
All right, so I want to play something for you guys. I don't know how familiar you are with the whole Jackass world.
Did you turn off the chat on purpose?
No, I didn't turn off the chat at all. I haven't touched the chat.
Chat hadn't moved.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not over there. See, what?
Are we not broadcasting to anybody?
Yeah. So I don't know what your. I imagine Emil has very little familiarity with Jackass. I have very little familiarity with Jackass. Was that a thing for your generation, James? Was that something that you guys liked?
Yeah, because I was in college when that was big, and so of course we loved it. Steve,
Prime demo.
And they had a midget, so that was just the best.
So that was funny.
I tried to get Dominic.
Why would you try to get your son interested in that? A nation of parents tried to keep their children away from it, and here's Emil trying to get his son into Jackass. My son loves Jackass, and I mercilessly mock him for it. moron. What are you, dumbass? You know, I tried to get your son into
So, well, and so it did
No.
not go well. He did not
because Dom's
like
smart.
it
Dom's got a level of comedy appreciation that far out kicks
because they
Jackass.
were doing something kind of weird with their penises and stuff. And so like for him it was like, Dad, why are all these guys like messing with their
Dad.
penises? And he thought it was weird. And I didn't really have a good answer, so I was like, "Yeah, we don't need to watch this." And so we don't watch
have
Jackass.
A good answer.
I was under the impression that when Mike Judge made his pre-documentary Idiocracy, the show on which Ow My Balls was based would be Jackass. Like Mike Judge saw Jackass and he's like, "Oh my God, can it get any dumber?" And it's like he was probably in the process of watching writing Idiocracy when he saw Jackass, and he's like, let me just convert this a little bit. Let me tweak this a little bit, and this will be the biggest show when everyone's dumb as hell.
I mean, I get why it connected. It totally, put the crosshairs on a specific target demo. James, you were a member of that target demo, and it hit you square right in the forehead. I mean, I understand why that appeals to drunk college kids and, guys who are just interested in getting drunk and getting laid. I understand that. But for anybody that wasn't necessarily in that mindset, that show was repulsive. I just thought that show was so bad for everything. Just not going to end well.
It was the first of its kind.
Was it? Well, yeah. I mean, I guess. Anyway, go ahead, James.
Let me tell you why Jackass isn't a thing now, because YouTube is Jackass. If you want to watch people fall down the stairs or watch people hit their nuts on stuff, or you want to watch people give themselves a paper cut and then squirt lemon juice on it and then staple their balls to a piece of paper, you can already do that 1,000 other ways. And so this was kind of, I don't want to say it was like foreshadowing or whatever, but this served that model. This served that craving we had to watch people hurt themselves over and over and over and over and over and over for an hour and a half nonstop, where you can just pick it up at any point in the middle and start watching and not miss, because it's not like you missed the exposition. This is sort of like a string of viral videos that were strewn together. When you look at it in retrospect, that's how a kid would describe it now. That's how I would describe it now. This is sort of like a Tosh 0.0, but it's the same people doing stupid stuff over and over.
And there are versions of Jackass that are now, the modern version of Jackass, whether it's Dude Perfect. I don't know if you're familiar with those guys up there in Frisco. Oh God. You know who these guys are? Dude
absolutely. Perfect. They started with the viral videos where they would do amazing trick shots with basketballs and Frisbees and stuff.
Here's my problem with Dude Perfect. They're good. The entertainment that they're creating is good, and they're making millions of dollars. And I'm like, they're a bunch of 18-year-olds in Frisco, living in a Frisco mansion, just making viral videos that my son watches 100 times a day.
Yeah, they're like 40 now, though.
Are they older now? Yeah, I remember when they were kids. So I mean, that's really sort of a more toned down version of Jackass. So anyway, what's happening with Jackass is Bam Margera, who is one of the guys from Jackass. I met him in a Mavericks game once with Richard Hunter, and he was completely ripped out of his mind on drugs, which is kind of, I guess, how he lives his life. He was a real, I mean, I just thought that I was like, yeah, that's basically a homeless person with like $1 million in the bank, because that's what Jackass did. They took people. Bam Margera was kind of a garbage person, right? And he was willing to staple his nuts. So, let's get MTV involved and exploit that.
He did have it together enough to be a professional skater at some point, which, it's not the most impressive profession on earth, but it does require a lot of practice and focus.
Yes, it requires a stoner 14-year-old to spend every day not in school, but skateboarding instead. And then it requires a fancy older man with business interests to pull up and go, hey, kid, sign here. That's all it took.
Yeah, but I
like you went to med school to be a skateboard, right? I mean, it's not hard.
I'm not putting too much shine on him, but like for even the dumbest football player, NFLer that we've met, he at least had the ability to go to practice and stay on a team and not get kicked off and stay out of jail.
But you can't even say that for Bam, because he was kicked off his Jackass team multiple times for being a complete screw up. So anyway, he's in the news. Here's a fascinating thing. I mean, I don't know what Viacom made off Jackass or Viva La Bam or any of the shows that he had his own shows, his own spin-off shows from MTV. For 20 years, this dude is worth less than $1 million right now. This guy, Viacom probably made $1 billion off of the Jackass brand. I know Johnny Knoxville seems to have invested wisely. Bam Margera, not so much. Bam Margera has apparently, well, a couple of weeks ago, he was missing. I don't even remember that story. He went missing. You don't, or you do remember that? Or you don't remember that?
Oh, I don't.
No, James, did you hear about that?
I did. Yeah. And then they said, this is what he looks like now. And I'm like, why you have to show me a picture of Bam Margera? I know what Bam Margera looks like. Oh.
Right. Okay, so we're going to see Bam in a second here, but I want to properly set this up. So he went missing, and they're like, we're afraid he's going to kill himself because he's out of control. And then he showed up, and he's like, I'm not going to kill myself. I'm just mad at my brother and my ex-wife. And there's this whole big thing about, he had this house in Pennsylvania called Castle Bam, which I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's an absolute piece of shit house. But of course it is, because Bam Margera bought it when he was like 20. You know what I mean? And then never.
I don't know. It says castle bug. That sounds pretty nice.
No, it's not. It's a castle because there's it's small. It's probably, it's not a big fancy house. It's like a stupid house in Pennsylvania that he dubbed Castle Bam, and he threw a bunch of parties and filmed it, so it became sort of famous in dirtbag viral circles. Anyway, he apparently lost Castle Bam to his brother, Jess. Jess is also a member of the Jackass crew, or at least tangentially, maybe he's part of the Viva La Bam show. I don't know, but he has a bit of stroke himself. So Jess somehow acquired Castle Bam, and it's now called Castle Jess. And the last time that we heard from Bam was when the police were called to Castle Bam/Jess, and they were called by Jess, who now lives in Castle Bam, saying, my brother is claiming that the house that is now mine is his, and he's on drugs, so get over here. So the cops got over there. Bam saw the cops show up, and he ran into the woods. No one saw him again for 2 weeks, and that led the whole, he's a danger to himself, he's missing. 2 weeks, he goes on a bender, he surfaces, and he's like, nah, I'm okay, I'm back. But now he's got these issues. Can you imagine? Bam Margera's got a whole bunch of personal issues that he's dealing with, not just the loss of his house to his brother. Apparently, he's got a kid named Phoenix, who he loves very much. And I think all of us as fathers can relate to not being able to see your kid. He claims that he hasn't seen his kid in 2 months because of all of this stuff that is going on. And it's heartbreaking. It's a truly sad situation. But when you look at Bam Margera, all I can say is, well, I mean, come on, man. What do you expect? You kind of... if I'm a judge, I'm not going to let you see the kid either. Look at you. Anyway. So he's made a video. He is now resurfaced, and he has made a video. And in the video, he is talking about how he hasn't seen his son in 2 months, and he is demanding to see his son. And if he doesn't see his son, he is going to smoke crack until he dies, which I think is not a good thing to say. I don't think that sounds like a stable person that a judge might allow to see their son. Someone who's... bring my son here, or I'm going to smoke crack until I die. All right, so let's watch the video. And here's Bam Margera in all his glory. Here we go. Can we see that? All right.
This is an official message to anybody that cares about me whatsoever.
Why the fuck is that so small?
I haven't seen Phoenix in 2 fucking months. And I'm so
okay. There's full screen. That's full screen.
Every day I miss
and
him
that's
so
minimized.
much, and I know that I have to wake up every day knowing that I probably won't get to talk to him.
What am I supposed to do?
So hit the little share button, grab the link, and put it in the top of the browser.
What? All right. Is this new with TMZ? I play TMZ videos all the time. This is the first time this nonsense has happened. All right. That takes us here. James, look at you. I think you just fixed it. Thank you, sir. Although, yeah, now we're going to be forced to watch.
When the mission is to save humanity, who can you count on the most?
I'm a celebrity on 2 planets now.
Stars on Mars, featuring William Shatner, June 5th on Fox.
Hard pass! All right, here you go.
William Shatner
is an official message to anybody that cares about me whatsoever. I haven't seen Phoenix in 2 fucking months. And I'm so fucking fed up. I cry every day. I miss him so much, and I know that I have to wake up every day knowing that I probably won't get to talk to him or see him. So yes, Nikki drives me to fucking drink. So does my fucking mom. And so does my fucking pep talking dad who tells me nothing but I'm a fat fucking loser, piece of shit, drug addict fucking loser. So, and my mom is a brain fucking manipulator, and my brother stole Castle Bam, and he thinks it's called Castle Jess, and then I have to listen to my mom say, Bam, you do have a house. Really, Abe? Where? Well, it's Castle Bam. Well, if I go there, then the police will come. And Naveed the shaman, my best friend, came in from fucking Persia, and I can't even go show him my own property. I gotta stand behind the gate. So yeah, April, I don't have a fucking house. So I'm gonna smoke crack with the bums down at the boardwalk until I'm dead unless you deliver me fucking Phoenix. Get to work, Nikki, or anybody that wants to help. I want Phoenix.
All right. So Bam Margera making a very public video that any judge is going to see and certainly not allow him to have any contact at all with his kids. He is obviously drunk. That is accounted for in the slurring. I imagine that he's also on. I don't know if his teeth were capped with gold and silver or if he's got meth teeth now, because there's something going on with his teeth. They weren't pearly whites. Guys, thoughts on that? Bam Margera.
Yeah, so he had the, I don't want to say dentures, but you know, like when they put the retainer goo in your mouth and you just have teeth that are filling in the gaps.
Well, I'm sure he's knocked quite a few teeth out in the stuff that he's done. So he's probably had some major dental work done at some point.
I mean, which isn't, you know, that's kind of a here nor there. I mean, it's a sign of your drug use has gone too far. It's also a sign. I know some people who have got all their teeth knocked out in a bicycle accident, you know, so whatever. His face, man, he doesn't look like Bam. He does that bloated thing, like when you're playing Dig Dug and the bad guy's 2 pumps in, you know.
It looks like a Dig Dug character. Okay, well, I wasn't necessarily looking for that, but I don't even know who that guy is. I mean, like I said, I was never a fan of Jackass.
He looked like John McAfee, the guy that, remember John McAfee? That's what he looks like now. John McAfee 10 years ago is what Bam looks like now.
I mean,
I think if you look at that video and you put yourself in that person's place, you can understand the pain of not being able to see your kid, and that being the first thing you think about and the last thing you think about, you know, before you wake up and when you go to bed. And so I see that pain there, and then I also see a part where you could take this spot and we could fast forward 4 or 5 days from now and somebody could tell you that Bam Margera killed himself.
Yep.
And I don't think any of us, after watching that video, would be surprised.
I would be surprised if he killed himself. I wouldn't be surprised if he accidentally OD'd or something like that.
Now, I'm going to talk way over my head. Yes, I'm talking out of my ass. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yada, yada. I got it. But from what I've read on the internet, so these are classic traits of narcissism. First off, where you are sort of incapable of self-criticism, and the fact that, you know, I've cried my eyes out because I hadn't been able to hang out with my kid. Well, it didn't stop you from drinking, did it? Because you're fucking drunk right now. It didn't stop you from smoking crack now, did it?
Right.
Right.
And yet he's blaming Nikki. Nikki is his kid's mother. He's blaming her for his addiction issues. In that, if you saw that, you drive me to drink. Another odd thing is he refers to his mom as April. Who the calls their mom by their first name? No, that's weird to me. I mean, I know that there are some cases where that happens, but it always strikes me as odd where a kid will call his mom by their first name. I don't like
so a lot of times when people do that, it's sort of the narcissist thing where he is dissociating himself from his relationship with her as a mother, and that's why he's saying that. You're not wrong in that, but there's a lot of people who do, like my third kid, Atticus, he calls me James a lot, but not because he's an empath who's dissociating himself, but he just thinks it's cute.
I would smack my kid if he called me, but my kid would never in a million. I'd be like, don't you ever call me that. That's not something that, yeah, I would not be okay with that.
Tone means a lot, but also the other thing
tone means everything. Tone and context. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
So the other thing that is like, if you were to read the pamphlet on narcissism, would be that whole threatening to hurt yourself if the people that you're supposedly your loved ones don't do what you say. You're literally being the manipulative one while calling other people manipulative. So, you know, he called his mom
projection. It's classic projection. That's what that's just another one of these things.
Yeah. And it's not so much projection as in narcissism as it is the combination of you're incapable of self-criticism and you feel huge discomfort at feeling like these people that you love are out of your control. These people that need to be in your control are out of your control. And the fact that they're not jumping to, because they used to jump to, and when you're a narcissist and you have money and fame and power for a while and you get used to people jumping to everything you say, and when you snap your fingers, if you're a narcissist, that feeds you, and it really just tears down like an entire wall of ego that we all have. And I mean, I don't mean ego like we think of ourselves as great, but ego in the fact that,
the driving force of humans. That's what ego is. Yeah. You're not talking about the way it's commonly referred to. You're talking about what the id, and you're talking about all of that. Yeah.
Right. So as those walls get teared down, the things that come out of his mouth are really honest. And we see that, when you and I get drunk, we get really honest too. We don't say shit like that.
No, we don't. And we don't,
So there's something wrong with him. There's narcissism. There's, the sort of addictive, compulsive things he has going on, the threats of self-harm, the dental issues, the bloated face, the dude, you look like you're 72 and you're only 50 kind of thing going on too. There's a lot going on here.
Here's what I would like to point out. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on with him right now, but I think this is the end result of basically there being a lot going on with him inside of his head probably since the time he was 10 years old. This is not a person. This is not a stable person who looks like they were raised in a stable home, who had good guidance, who had all of that stuff. This is a person who probably has learning disabilities. They certainly have disassociation, as you pointed out. There is a lack of responsibility for anything that he may have caused in this. That also plays into the narcissistic tendencies that you met. The ego is out of control with him at the end when he says, "Get on it, Nikki." Like, who the hell are you to talk to the mother of your child that way when you are trying? This video that he made, unfortunately, because I do have a heart and I see a man who's obviously in a lot of pain and he needs help. Because I hope there are people who love him and who will respond to this in the appropriate way. We're just, we're the great unwashed out here watching him do this very public thing.
Well, look, one thing you learn from this, people who are much younger than me, E, and Pugs, who are going through people trying to manipulate them as you're trying to figure out these human relationship dynamics in real time. This is not how it's supposed to be. This is not normal. If someone is doing this, get out. Just so you know, like, can you recognize some of these red flags? These are not healthy relationship, traits that we're seeing exhibited here. But I would also like to add that as, stable of a childhood as I've had and stable of a marriage and relationships I've had, I am not so sure that if I had been given millions of dollars at age 18, 19, 20 and had cameras following me around and everyone telling me I'm great and all the most beautiful chicks just falling face first into my lap and all this stuff, that it wouldn't have gone to my head like a little bit. And,
and especially with not being prepared at all for that. At the very least, when we're talking about, 21-year-old number one draft picks who suddenly find themselves with all of this money, at least there was some, you would assume, years of some sort of preparation for this. When you are a standout athlete and you're getting into college and all of a sudden you're looking like you're going to be the number one draft pick, you've got a team of people who are preparing you for what is about to happen. And even then, you get these athletes who blow it. So imagine a guy who was just basically picked up off the street because he let people kick him in the nuts. Imagine what kind of preparedness he was.
No, and I'm starting to think like, I'm a good guy and a good dad and a good husband and all that. But I'm not so sure I would have turned out like this if you had pulled me aside at age 18 and given me $20 million and an MTV show and, a movie franchise and all this stuff. Because, my little brushes with whatever fame I've had in radio have gone to my head in bad ways, like almost immediately. And, I can recognize it, pull myself out of it. But, yeah, dude, I don't know if I would do much better than the Bams and the Ryan Leafs.
Yeah, I do. You would do much better because again, when you were 18 years old, you weren't like, "Hey, kick me in the nuts and film it." See, he was broken from the start. The exploitation of him being broken was what caused him to become a celebrity. Now, look, I say exploitation. You think that's it's not necessarily a bad thing. He was just a guy who was doing weird shit, and they started filming it, and they put it on MTV, and all of a sudden there's Chevy commercials in between your breaks. So money is being made off of his brokenness. Money was made off of come on, when you watch Jackass the first time, didn't you look at your buddies and go, these guys are crazy? Yeah. They are crazy. They are crazy. And this is what we're seeing 25 years later. This is the end result of this is what that looks like when it's not a cute 19-year-old doing it.
It's not guaranteed because now Steve-O is like a evangelical revival preacher or something crap like that. He runs around in suits and ties and stuff. In fact, there was a comment about it, and I had seen that too. And Steve-O looks kind of normal now, and I'm not saying that's a normal end result either, but it's not a death. No, it's not.
Johnny Knoxville looks like a high-priced attorney. Johnny Knoxville does not look like you know what I mean? Like Johnny Knoxville has obviously handled this well. He's like he owns a studio and he produces things that actually become TV shows and movies. Johnny Knoxville, were they friends? I guess I'm not familiar with the history of how Jackass was put together. I like, were these all buddies or was it just Johnny Knoxville and then they just started adding weird people? Like, is there an organic relationship between these people that go back to like grade school?
No clue.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I got no. It just looks to me like they wanted to do a bunch of crazy stuff and start hanging out and just kept doing it.
If you're doing a Bam before and after, then show Steve-O before and after because he went the opposite way and Steve-O is now clean and sober and looks normal.
Right.
Did you not have I figured you'd have a picture loaded up because you put that, so I didn't get a picture loaded up. So I want to see what Steve-O looks like.
I don't have it, but yeah, he was kind of saying what I was saying a second ago.
Let's see what old Steve-O looks like. Okay, here we go, Steve-O.
I mean, isn't it all a version of Crash TV?
I don't know what Crash TV is.
Yeah, I don't know what Crash TV is either.
Well, like, I mean, you watch these shows to see something bad happen
on my ball
to the person. And like, I mean, whether it was UFC or American Gladiator or any of these, you started watching them because you figured something bad was going to happen.
Yeah, that's the attraction. That's the attraction in NASCAR. That's why people, watch people walk on a tightrope. Yeah, we all want to see that stuff. This is Steve-O here. Steve-O looks like a youth pastor. That's what maybe that's what he is. Did he get religious? Is that his thing?
I think he's religious now. I think he's
Yeah, he looks like a youth pastor. Well, now that's the Steve-O we all know, and although a cleaned up version.
That tooth missing just changes that picture a whole bunch. If that tooth was in there, it would not look nearly.
He has a tooth missing
now.
And an ascot.
I was gonna say, there's the ascot that James hates.
Yeah,
I was waiting on. There you go. Looks kind of normal there.
Yeah, he doesn't because you don't see a normal guy.
Oh Jesus! Look at the fake teeth.
Yeah. You got some pearly whites there.
Everybody, these new cheap teeth that people can get now. They're not cheap, but they're certainly less expensive than.
Don't they look like more teeth than they ever had before?
It looks terrible. Everybody usually, I got my teeth fixed, and then they smile and they're like a horse. It's like everybody's got teeth that are like just maybe like a millimeter or 1/100th of a centimeter too big for their mouth.
Like it's like they need to like shorten the width of all the teeth.
They're too big.
Or Just remove
It
one.
changes the smile. They all have the same smile. Everybody who's had this dental procedure, they have the same toothy horse face smile. That looks good there. That was good. That was good. That was good. All right, Steve-O. Well done, Steve-O. Wonder if Steve-O and Bam have any kind of a relationship to speak of. Seems like a job for Steve-O to get involved there. All right. Are we done? I got nothing else. Anybody got anything? E, got anything? No?
Thank you. I mean,
Oh!
sometimes you got it. Sometimes
Hold on. I gotta mention something. I gotta mention something. This is and again, this is probably not really show content, but earlier today, the three of us had a phone conversation, and the three of us were, I was over at E's house, and we called James, and we were talking about some things, and we started to talk about the Downbeat on the Freak, which is a show that we all like. That's Reiner's show. It's Mike Soroy. It's Danny Bayless. So we all like that show. We were talking about what we like about that show. We were talking about Danny Bayless and about how Danny Bayless, we're not sure that he necessarily preps the way a talk show host might prep, but he shows up and he just does things that maybe don't require a lot of prep, but it doesn't matter because they work. So about 20 minutes after that, I'm driving in my car. And did anybody hear the Freak today? Danny has like a game of the day. I don't know if it's a game of the day, but he creates these games that they play on the Freak. And Danny, I shit you not. Do you know what today's game was called, James?
No clue.
How tall is this dude? That was the name of the game. They're like, Danny, what do you got a game for us? He's like, yeah, this is kind of like, our other game. What's that sound? Like, that's literally a game that they play where they play a sound and then they have to guess what the sound is. Because it's kind of like, anyway, the point that I'm making is it was one of the funniest games I'd ever heard. And it was so stupid. It was just, all right, gentlemen, are we ready? I'm playing the role of Danny Bayless. All right, gentlemen, are we ready? Keanu Reeves. How tall is that fool, Mike? And Mike would be like 5'9".
Right.
And then Soroy would go, but I'm going to go 5'10". And then Grooves would go, I'm going to say 6 foot. And then you'd get the answer. It was exactly what we were talking about. If you were to pitch that bit to a program director would go, duh, we're not doing that. That's stupid. That doesn't make any sense. But the fact that talented, entertaining people took that and turned it into a conversation that was so fun to listen to, that's the magic of radio. And I'm listening to this and I'm going, this is an absurdly stupid bit. It shouldn't exist. It's not even worth airtime. And yet here you have three funny people with amazing chemistry who are turning this stupid thing. It's like you could do a game. What color is this? And then you show like a mauve or something. And then people,
you realized last week you and me did 35 minutes on my cigarette lighter.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying there are. It's not about the content. Like everybody's like, you need to have better content. It is not about the content. It is about the people who are discussing the content. That's what you're listening to. You're not listening to a computer read a newspaper story. You're listening to content being funneled through someone that you're comfortable listening to. And after the conversation that we had about, well, what kind of prep are they doing on that show? And then to hear that game be unveiled like 20 minutes later, I'm like, did they tell him 5 minutes ago that he had to come up with a game? And he came up with, how tall is this fool? I hope they play the game again. It was so much fun. And here's the secret sauce on that game. It's fascinating because he picked people who we think are either taller or shorter than they actually are. So every reveal was like, Keanu Reeves is 6'2". Like, I was like, what? Wow. He's 6'2". All right, so that was fun. I thought that was funny because we had just discussed that very thing. Like, what kind of content are they bringing to the table for these meetings? And then we get a game today. How tall is that fool? That was the name of the game. How tall is that fool?
All right.
Just throw
so
a name.
How tall is Emil?
Emil is 6'2".
Well, I was going to ask the commenters, but whatever.
Oh, well, I'm guessing. I don't know. I mean, other than the fact that I've stood next to him. How tall are you, Emil?
6'1".
All right, let's do James. How tall is James?
6'4" and a half.
6'3".
James is 6'2". What are you?
6'3".
6'3". Yeah, I'd put that. All right.
Sometimes I wear shoes and I'm 6'4".
Yeah. All right. Very good. You guys are nice and tall.
I'm like Greg from Succession.
Cousin Greg.
All right, I'm out of here. Hey, y'all go download Florida Stories or watch the podcast or YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, iHeartRadio.
Sure, James. We'll get right on that.
Google Podcast.
And then after you watch
Amazon,
Florida Stories,
gives a
watch
shout out
Florida
there,
Man.
do you?
James, hold on. Don't
do.
leave. Don't leave before you go. I got another Friday night question. Nah, I'm 6 even now. Thank you. I have a Friday Night Lights question for you. Okay. Who's your favorite character? I mean, let's not just go like who's the hottest girl, because that's either Tyra or Minka. Maybe Connie Britton. I know you probably like Connie Britton. Connie Britton checks a lot of boxes for you.
I do. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So who's the best character? Because every time, yes, I've found myself in some Friday Night Lights Twitter feeds, because yes, that is a thing. There are people still watching, and there was a discussion about who is the glue, who's the best character, who's the character that every time they come on, you're like, eh. Now a lot of people were saying Riggins, and I'm like, a lot of people said Landry. So James, who's the best character on Friday Night Lights?
Well, I think it's supposed to be. You're supposed to identify the most with, and the antagonist that you're supposed to be rooting for the hardest is Matt Saracen. And he definitely is for the first 2 seasons, but
he's a drip though. He's a boring character.
Well, he farts it away like season 3 on. And Landry sticks around for another season after him, and his character does the opposite thing where he's just sort of a side accessory piece for the first 2 or 3, and then he steps up and
becomes the lead, basically. I mean, by season 3, which is where I am right now, I would say a good 40% of all the scenes are with Landry. And when you talk about an ensemble cast like that, 40% is a lot. he's a lot of screen.
Yeah. So the side thing he had going with Tyra, that subplot is fantastic.
Oh, I love that plot.
My wife would probably say Riggins, because my odds of getting action after Riggins is on the screen goes up by about 64%.
Yeah, everybody likes Riggins. Riggins is just having sex with every girl in the school. He's probably having sex with teachers, half the women in town. Now, Riggins is an easy one. I think Riggins is a jagbag. Like, as I've been watching now on the second one, I'm like, you know what? Everybody likes, there's a romanticism about Riggins as the outlaw type, as the one that won't, he's got the raw talent. He's Kelly Leak from Bad News Bears. He's got a lot of talent, but he's not going to dedicate himself to stupid football. You know what I mean? He's not, dude, I had to think about this and I went around. And so here's what I came up with. This is my favorite character.
Voodoo.
And guess what I found out? Ida, I don't know if he knows. Actually, I do. I need E to sniff around on this. I need to know where he lives. He lives in this neighborhood. Buddy Garrity. Oh! Buddy Garrity. The great, his real name is Brad Leland, and he lives in Highland Park. He lives somewhere around here. But Buddy Garrity I'm watching this my second time through Friday Night Lights. He's my favorite character, man. Every time he shows up, Buddy Garrity is a big old Texan. You can imagine I know you
I don't mean to crap on it.
Yeah.
I think you just like that actor because I've seen him in 2 other things. There's something that my wife's watching right now on Netflix that he's in. I love him in that. So I think you might just love that actor. He does such a good job being such a lovable, sort of benevolent, crooked guy.
Texas car dealer. He's a Texas car dealer. He's going to sell you a car. You're going to love it. And he's going to be your best friend for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And he's not going to recognize you later that night when you run into him at the bar.
He's a good guy. He loves your family. He donates to, charitable causes in the community. And he's just going to leave this money on the dresser and walk off. And if something happens to it, no questions asked.
He's awesome. He's Buddy Garrity. He loves his daughter. He loves his family. He screwed up. He lost his wife. But, he's the biggest booster in town. 1971 Texas State champion quarterback Buddy Garrity. He was the quarterback of the Dillon Panthers in 71.
I just couldn't imagine being a booster for almost anything, right? Can you imagine being a booster?
Well, if you live in a small town and you're the big fish.
I do.
Right, but Buddy Garrity is like the big fish in the small town. You know, he's got the big car dealership and he throws all the big parties and everybody's like, "But we got to ask Buddy Garrity." You know, Buddy is sort of the boss in the town. I don't know. But anyway, the reason I wanted to bring that up is because I need you to put out your Highland Park tentacles. I need to find out where Brad Leland lives.
No, this guy, he's not going to live up to the hype. He's going to be some boring mush mouth drip.
Well, I don't care. Here, let me show you a picture of him. You tell me if you've ever seen this guy, okay? Hold on. Because he lives here. He's lived here his whole life. Actually, that's not true. He grew up in Plano.
He didn't. He had to live in Permian at some point, Odessa at some point.
No, he didn't. That was just a role that he played. Did you know that he also played the lead booster in the movie Friday Night Lights? But it was named it was a different character. But it was
wait. So are you talking about meeting the guy that Buddy Garrity is based on, or the actor who played Buddy Garrity?
Oh no, the actor who played Buddy Garrity is Brad Leland. And he lives here.
I would love to meet that guy. I thought you were talking about the
real guy that it's based on.
Well, yeah, like the guy that was really the 1971 state championship quarterback. You think you really want to meet that dude?
No. But here, this is him. This is Brad Leland, the actor. He kind of looks like Jody Dean to me. He reminds me of Jody Dean. I think that's why I like him. There he is, right there. There he is. Have you ever seen this guy? Anywhere at a restaurant? He doesn't look familiar to you at all. There you go. There's
his
Buddy.
real name?
No.
His real name is Brad Leland. Brad Leland. He's the actor Brad Leland. Yeah, he lives here in Highland Park. And of course, he played Buddy Garrity. He played Buddy Garrity in the TV show Friday Night Lights, and he played the Buddy Garrity character in the movie Friday Night Lights, but that was a different name. He wasn't called Buddy Garrity in the movie Friday Night Lights. He was just
okay. So Leland went to Plano High School, where he won the 1971 3A state championship.
Oh, well, you know what? That makes sense though, because when they made that revelation in Friday Night Lights, they were throwing a party for the Dillon Panthers, and they said great moments in Panther history, and they showed a picture. The first one was Buddy Garrity, Dillon Panther quarterback, 1971, and it was a legit high school football picture of Brad Leland. So it must have been from his Plano days, because I'm like, oh, look at that's a legit picture from a yearbook.
Wow, yeah, it must have been. All right. So man, he's in a lot of stuff right now. Trying to figure out which is the one my wife is watching right now that's so freaking funny.
I would kill to interview him. Yeah, how great would that be to have Buddy Garrity sit in on one of these shows? You know, I would just endlessly pepper him with questions about Friday Night Lights. Has he done anything else? I mean, I've seen him in other things, but he's not known for anything else, right? I mean, he's pretty much best known as Buddy Garrity.
Yeah, he's not. You would tell some of the stuff like he was in The Patriot, but do you remember him in The Patriot?
No.
Yeah. Right. He was in like The Ringer. I remember that movie, but I don't remember him. He was in Inside Man. I remember that movie. I don't remember him. Hancock. I don't remember him in that. I don't think I saw him.
Well, here's the thing. I think he never stood out in anything, but since we've come to know and love him on Friday Night Lights, now he stands out in everything. Because now every time we see him, we're like, it's Buddy Garrity.
Oh yeah. He's in an episode of The Last of Us now, and the thing that my wife is watching is Love and Death. That's what he's in right now.
Wait a second, I just finished watching Love and Death. Who was Buddy Garrity in Love and Death?
Buddy Garrity. Let's see.
I mean, it would make sense that he would do that because he plays a Texan in every movie that's based in Texas, and Love and Death is based in Murphy or so.
He is Chief Royce Abbott. Bradley, Chief Royce Abbott.
I don't remember him in Love and Death. That's fascinating. All right. Well, I bet you I'd have remembered him if I had started my Friday Night Lights re-binge before I watched Love and Death. Why is your wife watching Love and Death and not you? It's freaking awesome. It's really good.
My wife has whatever she watches while I'm doing this every night, and so she has a whole library of TV shows that she's seen that I haven't.
All right. Tell her that if she's enjoying Love and Death, she must immediately go over to Hulu and watch Candy, which is the Hulu miniseries based on the exact same story that the HBO Max is. The HBO Max series based on Candy Montgomery is called Love and Death, and it stars Elizabeth Olsen. The Hulu series based on Candy Montgomery called Candy stars Jessica Biel, and that one's got Justin Timberlake in it, so that one's interesting too. They're both good. They're both really good. Crazy story from North Texas. Were you living here, E, during the Candy Montgomery murders? Does that even sound remotely familiar?
Yeah.
It might have been before you. Wasn't it like 19? I think it was like 1980. Candy Montgomery was a housewife in Murphy who murdered her best friend with an axe. Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy. All right. That's enough. We're out of here. There goes James. Subtle as he is, telling us that we're prattling on way too long again. I've got a dog to walk. And then I've got an episode of Friday Night Lights to watch, a shower to take, and then Z's to saw. What needs to be mentioned? Oh yeah, tomorrow, remember, truncated show. We're going to do the show from noon until probably about 12:45, 12:50. Then I got to jump off. We got to do another. And then James and I got a little thing we got to do. And then I'm going to jump back on after that meeting. So bear with us. Also, stay frosty because I might go early tomorrow. Like I might just pop on at like 11:45 or something. We'll see. We will see how that all plays out. Thank y'all so much. Love y'all. See you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye. To be on guard, that is understood. Down the road I'll travel, far from the comfort nest. I am on a never-ending quest. I am on a never-ending quest.